All right, vandysports.com, the YouTube channel. We're back. Should we call this the vandysports.com YouTube show? Justin, I'm not really sure yet.
I'm not sure.
Okay, I like your stoic look on your face that you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm getting a phone call right now saying we're going to be out of school tomorrow, so I
All
was looking at
right,
that.
sweet. All right, well, here we are. Since Justin's out of school, that means more time for us to, we'll talk about and recap the 2021 class, which is what we're here to do. We did that previously, and people really liked it. So we talked about the offensive line last time. So if you want to check out that video, just go to our YouTube page. And as always, we'll remind you on this one, go hit the like button, like our page, go hit the bell for the subscription. It will, every time we load up a video, it will give you a ding. You will know that we have a new video on tap, and you can go watch it. So we're going to continue doing these position recaps for the 2021 class. Like I said, we did offensive line last week. We are going to do defensive line uh, right now. So we'll flip the script, the line of scrimmage. As you can see, we've got the signing class pulled up. Vanderbilt signed 5 defensive linemen. 23 signees in total. This class was ranked 35th nationally according to Rivals.com. Got some really good talent. I mean, when you sign 5 defensive linemen, that's pretty good. And we've talked about that. They've had some issues signing kind of depth previously and getting quality guys in here. And I think they did a really good job of that in this class. I mean, obviously, the glaring one is Marcus Bradley, 4-star kid. At one point was rated in the Rivals 250 ranking, so he was a top 250 prospect. Kind of slid out there at the end, but yeah, that was a big one. And then obviously they've got Devin Lee was a great signing day pickup for them, former Ole Miss commit. So we'll talk about these guys a little bit more in depth, but there's kind of a broad scope of the defensive line signing class for Vanderbilt.
Right,
So
and a lot of a lot of this has to do with Javon Hay. He did a really good job with
yes,
this class right here. So
Javon Hay pretty much had his fingers on all these guys with the exception of Jacquez Hunter, I believe. So I think that was more of a Udezi uh, recruit there. So yeah, Javon Hayes got his
right,
fingerprints all over this defensive line in terms of recruiting and everything. So
and
uh,
people is following, Vanderbilt football recruiting. Defensive line has typically been a tough position to recruit, for whoever's been down there as the coach. So to get a class like this says a whole lot about what Javon Hay was able to do. So
right, and I think people are excited just considering what the depth chart looks like now, defensive line wise, and obviously the class that's coming in right now. So I think there's a lot of Vanderbilt has that depth that they need to compete in the SEC. I think and moving forward. So with that being said, we will go a little bit more in depth. We'll switch screens here, and we'll focus a little bit more on. Of course, I don't have the right one pulled up right away, so here we go. Tyler Bence. We'll talk about him right off the bat. Of course, he was actually the first commitment in the 2021 class. So, but Bence was a guy that camped at Vanderbilt during the summer 2019. Was in one of their elite camps, and obviously Javon Hay worked one-on-one with him. Javon really liked what he saw in Tyler. They ended up offering him. Bence came back. I think he came back for a couple games that year, just for visits, and ultimately became their first commitment back in February. I think he committed after he came back for a junior day visit, back before the pandemic hit, obviously. So yeah, he Bence was a guy. Obviously, he was on his profile. He's 270, but at the time of his signing, Vanderbilt listed him at 280. So that's a 10-pound improvement. And like I said, visited multiple times during the 2019 season. One of those guys that really got in early on. Did have offers from South Florida, Southern Miss, South Alabama, Arkansas State, but Vanderbilt got in on him pretty early and really
right,
liked.
and the thing that's big for him is like you were talking about. It's the fact that Javon Hay worked him out at camp and
Right.
liked what he saw from him. So
Yes. Yes. So hopefully this highlight will look pretty good. I'm kind of blowing it up, so maybe they come in pretty good on your screen. How's it look on your end, Justin?
looks good.
All right, let's get it rolling. This is Tyler Bence. He didn't have a. Tyler was injured, got injured the first game his senior season, and he did eventually come back. He's got a few of his in-game highlights, but we're going to kind of focus on his junior year highlights, just because he had a full season that year. So this is the highlight package we're going to kind of show here for a little bit. Justin, just kind of tell me what you like about Tyler's film and what kind of stands out.
Well, if you watch it here, I mean, he moves well for a big guy. Him picking up the ball there and returning that fumble. If you watch him as well, he plays defensive end mostly. He's a pretty good pass rusher. I don't think his first step is great, but it's something, that he could improve on. He's got a high motor. I think he plays with good technique. You see him wrong arming that guard coming to kick him out right there. But I do think he has some pretty good pass rush skills, showing off right there. He just seems something I do like about his game is you see every time he makes a big play, he's really excited, fired up, ready to go. That's something that I tend to look for. But you can see him out there. He plays with good technique, staying square to the line of scrimmage. I don't think he'll be a defensive end once he gets to Vanderbilt, and that's something that's going to change here under Clark Lee. No longer are they going to be in the odd front, so they're going to be in the even front. So I could see him being a three technique, playing that position. If they needed somebody that was more of a run stopper, the strong side defensive end, somebody similar to kind of how Rutger Rietmeyer is for Vanderbilt right now, I could see him growing into that possibly. But he looks more like a three technique to me at the next level.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff there. Obviously, Tyler in the boat early and was pretty significant in just recruiting other guys in the class, too. I know when I talked to a lot of other targets and a lot of other commitments, they kind of mentioned his name as somebody they talked to a lot.
Right, and something else too that he showed in his senior highlights, which you didn't really see there. I mean, in the small amount that he had, he was also playing some stand-up defensive end in his senior highlights. So that just shows, kind of how athletic he is.
Yeah, and we'll move on here. Well, this was another big pickup pretty early for Vanderbilt in Terion Sugick, or Sugick, however you want to say his last name, but otherwise known as Tank. We'll just call him Tank. How about that?
Yeah, that works. That's what I'm going to go with.
But he's a guy that he was able to visit early on before the pandemic hit. I think he took an unofficial back in February, and so he was able to get on campus and interact with the coaches and everything. Obviously, Javon Hay was very influential in his recruiting process. Really gravitated towards Tank was previously committed to Virginia for about 3 weeks, just a little bit of time back in December of 2019. But I know he picked Vanderbilt over a final three of NC State and Wake Forest. I know in talking to him, he also talked to interesting note. He talked to Deo Odeyingbo throughout the recruiting process too. So Deo really kind of let him know a lot about Vanderbilt as well, just as a player and from a player's perspective. So really big pickup for Vanderbilt, a guy they really wanted, and they ended up getting him pretty early too in Tank. So we'll take a closer look at Tank. Obviously, thing about Tank, no senior season for him due to COVID. So we're going to go to his junior highlights here and watch those. And Justin, take over, man. What you see from Tank here?
Well, the one thing about Tank is he's not hard to find. He has the look of a Southeastern Conference defensive lineman. You always say when you go recruiting, if your wife was with you, you'd want her to be able to pick out who the Southeastern Conference prospect is.
Right.
My wife can pick out this one pretty easily. So, but if you just look at him, he looks like a guy that definitely could play like a one technique. Interior guy, moves extremely well for as big as he is. You can see why he had as many offers as he did and how many people really wanted him. Just you don't see many guys that are able to move as well for as big as he is. He does a good job with his hands as far as defeating blocks and doing those things. But he's the one out of this class that I could see that could play a one technique, or he could even play some nose, in certain circumstances if you were running an odd front. I I really like his skill set that he's got going there. And you can see him running down the speed option on the outside. We're talking about somebody that weighs 290 to 300 pounds doing that. That's extremely impressive.
Yeah, no doubt. And I know back when I talked to him when he committed, he mentioned something. He mentioned that the coaches like him as a three tech. Obviously, like you mentioned previously, that's going to change now. It's more of a four down lineman set. So, uh, but yeah.
Well, he can definitely play a three technique. I mean, as well as he moves and does those things, I just think with the other guys that they got coming into the class, more of those probably fit that a little bit more. But there's definitely scenarios that if you needed him to play a three technique, he could definitely do that.
Yeah. So it's good stuff right there from Tank, the man they call Tank. And you mentioned, we'll go back to his profile page. You mentioned all of his offers. Obviously, he committed to Vanderbilt and was at one time committed to Virginia, as you see right there from back in December of 2019. But at one time had a lot of offers here. Look at this: Florida, Indiana's on the upswing, Kentucky, Purdue, Tennessee. Talk about Tennessee there. Virginia, West Virginia. So yeah, he had a lot of offers there. So really good pickup for Vanderbilt. It's a guy they really wanted early on. Got in on him pretty early. And
right, and then he also played a huge part in getting Marcus Bradley.
There we go. Hey man, you're jumping way ahead of me.
Hey.
It's like you follow this stuff or something, But yeah, we're going to turn our attention to the next guy, and that's Marcus Bradley, who we talked about earlier. At one time, he was in the Rivals 250, top 250 ranking, so he was a top 250 recruit at one time. Slid out there towards the end, but still a four-star prospect. And anytime Vanderbilt gets a four-star prospect, that's a pretty big get for Vanderbilt.
Absolutely.
He was a long-time Maryland committed back in May, and then decommitted in November, and then Vanderbilt was able to swoop in there and grab him about 3 weeks later. So he committed on November 27th. But Javon Hay played a big role once again in this recruiting process, and I think I'm going back. I like what Bradley said about his recruiting process with Vanderbilt. He said he liked Vanderbilt's straightforwardness. They said, you can come in here and play right away, and he likes the academic part of it. He said they didn't fluff him with facilities and things like that, which Vanderbilt's not going to fluff a lot of people with facilities right now. Okay, so it's just they're trying to improve those, but just compared to other. But he just liked that the staff said, hey, you can come in, play right away. You're very talented, and obviously the academic portion helped too. And you mentioned Tank, obviously being two Maryland guys and knew each other, they're pretty good friends, so he helped out in that recruiting process as well. So a huge gift here, and you look at his offer list. Obviously, Bradley's a four-star kid, so he had a lot of great offers here at one point. Had offers from Florida, Georgia, LSU, Michigan, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Penn State. I mean, pretty good offer sheet. So we'll skip to his. Once again, Marcus was a Maryland kid. That state got hit with COVID. They didn't play football, so this is going to be his junior film highlights here. So we'll focus on. So we'll get the tape rolling. Justin, tell me what you see here.
Well, the one thing that you really catches your eyes when you're watching him is his first step is so fast. He gets off the football extremely well. And something, too, that when you're watching defensive linemen, something you want to see is guys that are able to get hands on offensive linemen, defeat them, and then make the play. Typically, if you really think about it, Sean, if it's me or you and we're unblocked, we should be able to make the play. Okay. All right. Not really, but but if you're unblocked, I think. But if you watch Bradley here, he has a really good first step. He does a really good job with his hands. He gets linemen off of him, and you can just see how athletic that he is. If you watch him, I think he could play three technique. I also think he could pop out and be a strong side defensive end if you needed him to. He can do all of those things. His pass rush is pretty good. He does a good job of making sure that linemen don't get to his pads, so he's able to get them off of him, and you can just see how athletic and disruptive that he is. Just having him and Tank possibly on the defensive line, that's big for Vanderbilt. I think those two definitely have a lot of talent to work with.
Yeah, I agree. I think people are really psyched whenever he jumped on board, and we kind of first mentioned him as being a possibility for Vanderbilt after he decommitted from Maryland. So, uh, good Maryland connection there. Obviously, Vanderbilt's kind of getting out over there in the East Coast a little bit, and good Maryland connection there. And that's a big commit. Like I said, 4-star, and at one time he was a Rivals 250 prospect. So we'll move on here and talk about Devin Lee. Devin Lee was on Vanderbilt's radar for quite a while. I think they offered him early summer. He did come and visit Vanderbilt on his own during the summer. I think it was late summer before committing to Ole Miss back in October of 2020. He was committed there for almost 2 months and then decommitted in early December. And then Vanderbilt was able to kind of get in and grab him on signing day. He was Devin Lee was the signing day, not really a surprise, but just one of those. He was, just going to wait and maybe announce his commitment on signing day. And obviously, we heard that Vanderbilt was in the mix there for him, and he ended up getting him. So that familiarity from the summer really kind of paid dividends whenever he decided to back off his commitment from Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt got a pretty good one right there. And Devin Lee, will take a look at his offer sheet here. Duke, Boston College, Arizona State, Georgia Tech, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. Those are some notable Power 5 offers there that he had. So we will go and look at Devin Lee's senior season highlights. And Justin, I'll hit the play button. Tell me what you see here, what you like about Devin Lee.
All right, Devin Lee, he's an interior prospect, definitely. You can see him there. He does a good job of using his hands. You can see he's an awful confident player. That's something I always see is something that's a good thing. But you can see how well he moves for somebody that's 270 pounds. Good little swim move there to get to the quarterback. I think he does a really good job of rushing the passer. He may be one of your better interior linemen at rushing the passer in this class that you got here. Everybody gets excited and talks about Marcus Bradley, and for good reason. He's a great player. But I think if he wasn't in the class, there would be a whole lot more talk going on about Devin Lee here. You can just see his athleticism and how he moves and does those things, beats the cut block there, works straight down the line of scrimmage, makes a big play there. And it's not easy for guys to come in and play early, especially in the defensive line position. But I do think that some of these guys here could definitely provide some depth here early, and definitely add some athleticism to the defensive line at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, good stuff there from Devin Lee. We're making special guest appearances here. Special guest appearances there by a cute little redhead.
From Avery. Yes, absolutely.
All right, we'll move on to Jacquez Hunter, committed to Vanderbilt back in August. He is your true edge rusher of the group here, 6'4". On Bravos, it was 210. Whenever he signed with Vanderbilt, they listed him at 225, so an increase of 15 pounds. Not really sure when these measurements were made, but it's always kind of cool to kind of compare them. Like I said, Kenichi Aduze was his main recruiter during the recruiting process, but a really good summer pickup for Vanderbilt. And you kind of look at his offer sheet right there. Jacquez was a guy we could hardly never. Well, I never got a hold of him. He just kind of kept things quiet, close to the vest. Didn't do a lot of interviews, just in terms of his recruiting process. So really hard to get any information or how he was feeling about about things during his recruitment. Obviously, like Vanderbilt and loved the appeal of playing the SEC football and getting the good academics. So you kind of see his offer list there. So yeah, Jacquez. Let's profile him, and obviously, he had a senior season, had a big season actually. His Lowndes team, obviously down there in South Georgia, one of the premier programs. They finished 10-2, lost to Collins Hill in the playoffs, but Hunter grabbed 34 tackles and had 8.5 tackles for loss this past season. Now, he does not have a senior film cut up, and a lot of his game film cut ups are very long, and it's only just maybe one highlight spliced into three different views. So we're going to focus on his junior film highlights here, and just for viewing purposes, and that'd be a lot easier on us. But here's his junior film highlights, and I'll hit play. And Justin, just tell me what you like about Jacquez Hunter here.
Well, the comparison that I would make when you watch him here for past Vanderbilt players, he kind of, his body type and the kind of the way he plays reminds me of Broderick Stewart and Stephen Weatherly. Just a really tall, thin guy. He's going to have to add some weight once he uh, gets to college, but you can see here he moves extremely well. Now, you don't see a whole lot of plays in here where he's fighting against the run a
Mm-hmm.
whole lot. Also, his stuff is running things down and getting to the football, but that's something that you can work on. Typically guys don't get a ton faster or do those things, but you can always add strength and get them to where they can do that. And especially with Clark Lee moving, probably going to be moving away from the odd front to the even front. This is one of your prototypical defensive ends that can play on the outside out there. And you would hope that he would be able to translate into a pass rusher and do those things. But when you watch his film here, the one thing that you really like, it just jumps out at you, is how he pursues the football.
Right.
Even if it's run away from him, he's able to make plays and he's able to run guys down from behind, and that's something you can't really teach. And then here you watch him his junior year, he's also playing in there at defensive tackle, even though, he weighs 210 pounds at the time. And then he can also play defensive end. I just looking at him, and, Vanderbilt needs defensive ends, those 4-3 defensive ends, and he's definitely one of those.
Yeah, you mentioned what sticks out about him, and just my my eyes. I mean, just his closing speed and just the way he has a nose for the ball, and I mean, obviously he's one of the heaviest hitters I think Vanderbilt's got in this class too. So that's really sticks out
Right.
to
And
me.
that's one thing with what Derek Mason kind of brought in there for his time at Vanderbilt. There really wasn't a whole lot of emphasis put on speed, and mostly that was on the back end with corners and safeties. He was more into length and those type things. But for me, I think defensively, one of the hardest things that it is to block and do that from an offensive perspective is guys on the other side that are really fast. Because typically, if you got speed and you can move, you can sometimes make up for mistakes that you make defensively, and then they have to snap it again. So
Right.
uh, I definitely like to see the little added speed there on that side of the ball.
Yeah, it looks like you can throw him in on some goal line packages too. Your fullback, extra blocker, maybe catch a touchdown pass or so. Just throwing it out there, man.
You got to get a little bit bigger so he can down block a little bit there.
Maybe. Yeah. All right, so there you have it. Defensive line. Uh, there's all the signees right there. We went through all their film, and here's another VandySports.com 2021 recruiting class recap for you. Hope you guys like it, enjoy it. We'll load this up, and we'll probably put this up on Monday evening sometime. But don't forget to go to our YouTube page, like it, subscribe to it, hit the notification bell so whenever our new videos drop, you'll know that they're out there and you can come watch them whenever at your leisure. And hopefully you've been enjoying these. We'll keep pumping them out, and we'll do the rest of the position groups for 2021, and we'll pump out a lot more cool creative content on the YouTube channel here. So we appreciate you guys tuning in.